Why, hello out there. Eddie here with a quick intro before the episode starts. Two things. First of all, the audio is kind of wonky throughout this episode. We forgot to correct the audio levels before we started, and we're on a new system, and so it's a little wacky throughout. I try my best to correct it, but sorry if that takes away from your enjoyment. I think I did the best I could. It should be fine throughout. Second thing, we don't do a traditional open. You'll see why. Just stick through it. You'll understand. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the show. Okay. We don't do the intro during the Star Wars one. It's fine. We'll run with it.
What do you mean we don't do the intro to the Star Wars one? Yeah, we do.
No, we don't. We just kind of go.
Yeah, we do. It's like
No, we don't.
I'm pretty sure we do.
No, I mean we do an intro. We don't do like the intro because I
It's the
feel like
exact same thing. We just say
Hello,
three people in a
everyone,
blanket fort.
and welcome to me eating a barbecue sandwich.
that's no. We're not using that as the intro.
I think we should. That was a solid intro. I
I
don't know why it took us so long to come up with one before. Like that was on the spot.
I'm not
Because
using.
you just gotta be truthful. That's all.
Fine, Eddie. We can say we're all eating a barbecue sandwich. Does that make you happy?
We're not. No. I don't want the
And
audience.
welcome to three people in a blanket fort eating barbecue sandwiches.
Oh, what, Eddie? You don't want the audience to know we eat barbecue sandwiches?
I just want the audience to know we're eating sandwiches, eating in general right now.
We don't have to be. We're not in a blanket fort either. It's all in your head. Wow, what a great cold open. That was like a cold open.
Is that the definition? Is that what a cold open means? I don't remember.
Yeah, it's kind of like whenever you start an episode of a show with a skit, like The Office did it a lot before the actual theme song. If we had a
Yeah.
theme song, it would play like right now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm outvoted, so we'll use that for the intro.
I think you should.
Wonderful.
All right, well, thanks for listening, guys. We're doing Star Wars now. Woohoo! Yay! Last Jedi. Your favorite movie.
I mean, it's not my favorite movie, but
I was being
it,
sarcastic.
well, yeah, I know. But I want to say I don't think it's as bad as everyone says it is. Thanks
I
for the support, guys.
Yeah, yep, you're on your own for that one, buddy. Nope,
It's got a lot of issues.
it's gotta, yeah. The whole movie's an issue, pretty
No,
much.
it's not. It's not that bad.
Okay, so, yeah, I think it is, so. Alright, well, Shaner, since you're the one that likes to advocate for this movie, why don't you start with the points that you think are positive? Because I got a whole host of issues on my phone, but, we'll start out with the good. Let's start off with the good, shall we?
Okay, the good. Visually, this movie is beautiful. I think
Okay,
we can at least all agree on that.
that's fair.
Cinematography, special effects, and just the general look of the movie is great.
Okay, that's true. That is true.
Okay, cool. Um, all of the characters feel like they should.
What?
The characters, like, they don't feel like they completely changed them. They match up with how they're supposed to be.
Oh,
I'm
you
not.
mean like
That's
compared
fair.
to where they were in the
Yeah, they
previous
didn't just
movie?
like. Yeah, they didn't jump too far ahead. Like this doesn't take place too long after, and they keep the characters the way they're supposed to be.
Okay, that's also true, I guess. Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna give a positive point, but also bookend it with a negative point.
Okay.
Just because. So the comedy in this movie, I think, is funny, but my bookend to that is that it doesn't feel like it belongs in this movie.
Wait,
You
what
know what
part?
I mean? The comedy. There was a lot of comedy, I think, added to this movie as opposed to even The Force Awakens. And
Yeah.
I think it's really funny, but it feels like it's out of place. If that makes sense. Like the opening scene with Poe and Hux on the bridge.
I mean,
And
okay, so this is actually one of the points I wanted to make in this movie is so the humor is one of them. I think that one of the major issues with this movie is the humor. It's basically if I had to sum up the lines in this movie, it's basically a bunch of cheap one-liners and ineffective speeches. That's what this movie feels like to me.
I don't know if I'd go that far. One-liners probably, but I think it's more like bits, like comedy bits you'd see on like on our, what are those show called? Like what Saturday Night Live is, or like Whose Lines Is It Anyway? Like they feel like little individual bits that just don't. They're funny, but they don't belong in this movie. I think like they feel out of place, especially when they intervene like a serious moment with a comedy bit, like Luke meeting Ray whenever he's like, "Who are you?" and she's like, "I'm from nowhere," and he goes, "Nobody's from nowhere," and it's starting to build this serious scene, and she goes, "I'm from Jakku," and he goes, "Oh, yeah, that's pretty much nowhere." Like that just kind of cuts through a serious scene and doesn't seem to fit there. Um, but yeah, that's my other positive point. I'm not good at picking out positive points. I think we should get into your negative points, and I'll debate them.
I mean, I don't think it fit a Star Wars movie. Like the comedy itself wasn't bad. It just didn't feel like a Star Wars movie to me.
The comedy?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say. Is like the comedy was funny, but it didn't belong in this Star Wars movie. Like it felt weird for it to be in a Star Wars movie. I'm not saying the comedy in and of itself in another movie would isn't funny, but I'm saying it didn't feel like it belonged in a Star Wars movie in general. How about that? I think we're saying the same thing.
No, no, we are saying the same thing. Yes,
Okay.
we are. Yes. Any other positives?
Not off the top of my head. I'm sure I have them, but they're not coming to my mind.
That's
But
it.
I'm better at debating that. Like what else? The score is really good.
True.
I think a lot of the bits with Luke are really good, especially when he starts breaking down what the Jedi Order actually was,
You would
which is
agree
something
with
that
that?
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
what
That was very good.
that's something I think the fan base was doing for a long time, and this is kind of their way of acknowledging that. The performances themselves, like the acting, I thought was really good. Whether or not you like what they're saying it really well. Most of them,
Yeah.
most of them, not all of them.
Disagree, but okay.
That's okay. You can disagree all you want. There's enough disagreeing out there.
Thank you. I will.
Um,
Thank you.
go ahead. Uh, it does better than the first film in that it diversifies its environments. Like the different planets felt a lot more than, hey, we're back on a sand planet again.
Yeah.
You had, I mean, a lot of it took place on Star Cruisers in outer space, but you had like Canto Bight, and you had Crate at the end, the white and the red, which was a really cool thing.
That was a really. That's probably yeah, really good scene and just environment. That's where I'm looking for. Environment, really good. I really enjoyed that bit.
Yeah, same. Yeah, the white and red was cool with the salt and all that stuff. That was cool. Salt and clay, I think that was supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think that's all I have to say. And I probably have more thoughts that'll spring out of what you say as a negative. Um, I think part of this movie's problem, and I'm not saying it's why you hate it, but I'm saying I think a lot of the hate this movie gets is simply because it's Disney and people won't give it a chance because it's Disney. I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I'm saying that's what a majority, I believe, of Star Wars fans who tuned this out did.
Okay. So, all right. Well, so we'll jump into the points that I have on my phone. So let's start just like kind of broad overall. The general plot, how the movie went through, what the story was. It kind of was bad in my opinion. Like most of the movie was people stuck on a Star Cruiser and being chased. That was like a majority of the movie, and it didn't feel very like much happened in this movie because I feel like everything it was such a short, condensed amount of events. They kind of all happened at the same time, and it felt long because like we kept jumping around, but not a lot actually happened. Like the First Order found rebels on planet. Rebels run away to another planet. and get away. That's basically the entire plot of this movie.
I mean, yeah, if you want to sum up the entire movie in 2 sentences, I guess it would seem short.
It is
Like A
short.
New Hope could be people find princess, get plans, blow up Death Star.
Okay, yeah, but you
I mean,
mentioned like 3 different parts of like going around and stuff. Like literally one planet, car chase, another planet. That was, I don't know. I
there were
think
at least like 5 planets in this film.
I mean, yes, it's true, and I know they jump around, and that's what kept the movie interesting. But like the main plot itself wasn't very interesting. I guess it depends on what you define as the main plot. The main plot of rebels running away from First Order, because I feel like that kind of cemented the whole movie. Because like you had a lot of moving parts, and all these moving parts orbited around the rebels, and the rebels were doing this one central thing, which was running away from the First Order. So I don't know. It just felt. I don't know how what an adequate word is, but I don't know.
I
I did
think it
not like the
was,
main plot.
I would say what they did was almost a more unique plot than we've seen before because most of it takes place on a cruiser. It's like centering it there and making sure they're stuck on it because they can't, they're getting tracked so they can't escape. I think made for an interesting new dynamic as opposed to like we jump to another planet and they found us again and then we jump to another planet and they found us again.
I don't know if the biggest issue, for me at least, lies with the plot as it does with the inconsistencies with characters and the way that the rebels react to things, and I think that's where I was like, okay, this is ridiculous, because just the lack of communication that caused a bunch of issues.
Between who? Because I think I have a part to explain this.
All right, so the Admiral Holdo or whatever her name is.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I'm gonna guess what you're gonna say.
Well, hold on. This is like further in the plot. I figured we started in the beginning of the movie.
Okay,
And
we're
work our
coming
way
back to
forward.
this
Why don't
because
we
I know
get
how to explain
hold our
this.
thoughts to Admiral Holdo and like start from the beginning of the movie? Because I was just starting general. Let's try and get through this chronologically. Does that sound good? We work with that.
Fine.
Okay, so do you have any major points at the beginning of the movie you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I kind of felt like that was pretty much where I started taking notes, because that's where I started having problem with it.
Really, that long?
Well, there wasn't something that, yeah, because usually I don't take notes. Usually I just talk about stuff, I just think about stuff. This movie, yeah, it took until then where I was like, okay, right now, you gotta take some notes.
Okay, well, I have points at the beginning because I take notes and I'm a proper podcaster. So, we're.
Well, except for, like.
Well, okay then.
I mean, if we're talking. Oh, you're talking about, like, before.
I'm making fun of you.
You're talking
That's
about
what I was
the.
doing.
I'm talking about the scenes.
Oh, yeah, Holdo was like the middle of the movie.
No, it definitely wasn't. It was after all of the blowing up, that kind of stuff.
It wasn't until after Kylo Ren blew up the ship after they jumped the second time that Holdo appears, because she doesn't show up until Leia's incapacitated.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's true, but it kind of goes into my point, which is before that, which is Poe and the way that he makes decisions. So, like, okay, Eddie wants to start at the beginning. So here we are, they're doing the bomb thing, and they're trying to make sure everybody gets out, and the plan is going well, and then all of a sudden Leia tells Poe to back off because they have everyone, and he doesn't. And Eddie and I had a conversation while we were watching about how this differs from the way Han Solo goes about things. And a note that I mentioned was Han Solo didn't put an entire fleet in danger. When he turned off, the comms and decided to do his own thing, it was him and whoever had decided to go along with him in his own ship or wherever they were, like his own little party. But mostly he was just putting himself in danger. What Poe did was turn off the comms and lead the entire force into this battle against the leader's wishes. So I think there's a huge difference there where, Poe's decisions put the entire fleet in peril when he doesn't listen because he decided to be part of a team. He decided to be part of the rebel forces there. So I feel like he's definitely not in the right to do that.
Well, yeah, that was the whole point, was that it was a wrong decision.
Yeah, but that's
Like,
that's my my opinion on why it differs so much from Han Solo and Han Solo's tactics.
well, yeah, I get that, but like the whole point of the part of the movie was, hey, you screwed up. And to be fair, he did end up accomplishing his mission.
What do you mean? I mean, yeah, but to what cost? The cost
Yeah,
was
that's the
higher than...
point of the scene,
Yeah,
so that you agree with the movie there.
Yeah, no, I didn't say I disagreed with the movie. I was...
So where are we getting this comparison to Han Solo?
Holly just wanted to inch in Han Solo somewhere in this discussion. This was her way to inch him in.
No, like I said, Eddie and I were having a conversation because I was like, well, that was pretty stupid of him, basically, while we were watching. And Eddie's like, well, Han Solo basically, did the same kind of stuff. So I was just saying, hey, Eddie and I had this conversation while we were watching. And this is the reason why I think they are not the same at all and they have different,
Yeah, I think I was just trying to poke fun at you because like you like Han Solo so much, and he was
No,
a dude.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was.
Okay, so
by the
Alright.
way,
Poe gets like what?
end
6
result-
bombers blown up.
Look, Han Solo better, end of story.
yeah, we know, Holly. We know no one's better than Han Solo. We know.
We're not saying he's better than Han Solo. We're not that blasphemous.
Speaking of Poe's little shenanigans, I really liked in the beginning of the scene where he just like has the what's his name? Hoax? General How
Hux.
Hux, thank you. How he just like puts him on hold, but he's like, patch me through. I'm waiting here. I thought that was great. That was hilarious. I laughed at that bit.
See, that's another thing where it feels like it was funny, but it felt out of place almost. Like I felt like it took me out of being in a Star Wars movie.
I actually agree with you, Shaner. There were a few times like that I felt the same way. That one being the first one, the tickling the hand with Rey.
Yeah,
Grass,
exactly.
Oh, yeah,
Same type of humor that just was very different than Star Wars films in the past. And it's like, okay, it's a little funny, but it seems very out of place.
But that isn't to say that scene with Hux wasn't funny. Because like if I forget for a second that, if I take my brain out of Star Wars movie mode for a second, it's a really funny scene.
Oh yeah.
And
Hilarious.
especially the fact that he keeps getting his name wrong on purpose and he calls him Hugs like 3 times.
Yeah. But I think you can definitely see the difference in that movie between the old humor and the new humor. Like an example of the old humor is with Yoda coming back and being like, haha, I missed you, and then playing around with him like he did when he was alive. That kind of humor is definitely fits the Star Wars humor of the past. Whereas some of that new
And
stuff
even
doesn't.
like even Han Solo had some humor. Like I saw someone comparing the humor in this movie to Han Solo's bit in A New Hope where he's like trying to confuse the guy in the intercom. And the guy's like, "Hey, who is this?" And he goes, "Oh, no, everything's fine. How are you?" And then just like shoots the control. And for some reason, it feels different.
Yeah,
That
because
feels
it's
like
a
it
more,
works.
It's a more natural approach to humor. It's funny because it's very realistic, and I don't know if I think maybe some of the humor in this film didn't feel like it fit as much, partly because it didn't feel as realistic.
Yeah, and I think the problem with it also is it tried to shove humor into serious scenes. Like if they were separate scenes on their own, like especially a lot of the stuff with Luke and Ray, it felt like it just completely broke any serious moments they had,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
which is the problem I had with that.
Right, because I mean, with the Luke one, they go right back to serious right after he slaps her hand with the grass, and she's like, ow, and then all of a sudden he puts her hand in, it's super duper serious all of a sudden. So, it definitely shifts very, very quickly.
See, I like the grass scene, because I didn't think that was, because it wasn't like they would have laughed in that situation. That was obviously meant for comedy for the audience, but it wasn't comedy for the characters in the scene. Like, it was still serious. Like, he hit it as like a rebuke, not so much a, oh, look, I hit your hand because it's funny, haha. You know what I mean? I actually like that.
I can see that. I can see that. Now, I mean, if you phrase it that way, I guess it makes more sense.
Well, it was the way that Rey acted that was unnatural. Like, if she's trying to feel the Force, and if she did actually think she felt the Force, there's no way she would be all giggly and, oh, yeah, no, I feel it. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
It's unrealistic for her character and seemed forced because it was just not natural.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so before we move on from that scene to Luke and Rey, I want to go back to the starship where we first see Snoke. And I feel like that's a good place to start off our conversation with Snoke, because he is, in fact, really big on the hologram when we first see him in this movie. And then later, he is small, frail man. So
he was big in the first movie, too. Remember, in the first movie, it looked like he was, 60 feet tall in these little chambers.
Oh, I know, right. And that's why I bring it up, because like they kept that image in the first half of the movie until we see him in person. I don't know. I wish Snoke was bigger. That'd be cool.
I do. When I first watched this in theaters, I was really bummed out that he was like just a small, frail dude.
Me too.
Because the image of him like looming over in this huge throne was such a cool idea for a Sith Lord.
Yeah.
But the more I watch it, the more I don't have a problem with it. I mean, like Palpatine was also just a frail little dude, but he's still super powerful.
Okay, yeah, but like at least he had more to him. He was like, like a senator in disguise. He tried to blend in. Like, it made more sense that he was frail because he used that to his advantage. Like, Snoke was just like, aha, I used a hologram to make myself look bigger. Haha, got him.
I mean, if you were tiny, if you can find a way to do that. Now, if they had played it off like that, it would have been better. Like, made it a big reveal that he was small. It would have made more sense. Like, he's been using holograms to deceive people and, make them fear him more because he could be this tall, this big.
Yeah.
Or off to see the wizard.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I did have a problem with Snoke, just a side thought? That stupid golden bathrobe. I hate that thing so much.
Yeah.
It was the weirdest choice for him.
It just makes him look more elderly. And
I know, for real.
Makes him look less scary. Did not like it at all. And then, sorry, go ahead.
What? Go ahead. No, I was just going to move on, but if you had another point.
Okay. Well, how do we feel about him dying in this movie? Because he just kind of has a unceremonious end, I feel.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with it.
I didn't have a problem with it either. I thought it was kind of cool because of the way he's, like, sensing the thoughts, but has no idea that it's directed toward him.
Hey, that part bugged me just a little bit. Only because, it just seemed so on the nose that he's like, I can feel him turning the lightsaber. I can feel him. And you're telling me, I don't care how focused he was, metal on metal, you're telling me he did not hear that lightsaber clattering beside him.
Yeah. And, like, if he can tell that much about him, then he can tell that it's not, for Rey, it's for him.
I mean, potentially, but also, not Adam.
Are you talking about Kylo Ren?
Kylo Ren, not Adam Driver. Anyway, Kylo Ren has been training quite a lot, and if there's anyone who knows how to deceive Snoke, it would be him. And he was being
I'm not talking about the deception.
Trying to be very quiet. So I think
I'm not talking about the deception. I'm talking about a metal lightsaber shifting around on your metal chair, like 3 feet, not even 3 feet from your ear.
Yeah,
surely it had to make some noise.
I keep wanting to say Adam. Good grief. Kylo Ren could have levitated it a little bit so it was off the metal. You know what I mean? Like, it's not
I guess
guaranteed that it was making any sort of sound.
It was. We heard it.
Maybe.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we heard the clanking. Didn't we? I think we did.
I don't think so.
Probably.
No, I just remember it very smoothly turning. I don't think there was any sound.
Okay, whatever. I agree with you, Shaner.
I think there's a lot more unrealistic things in this movie to worry about than him hearing the lightsaber turn.
Well, that's fair.
Well,
yeah.
first let's talk about Luke and Rey.
Okay, Luke and Rey.
Okay, I really like the way that Luke interacts in this one. Most of the things he did, even the humorous things, were pretty natural for him. They seemed pretty natural. Like him throwing the lightsaber was funny, but it seemed natural. That one wasn't out of place, you know. And
Well, I've seen a lot of people talking about the fact that all of his actions in this first part was basically him trying to tell Rey, like, hey, I'm not that Luke Skywalker anymore. I literally want to die on this island by myself, and I'm not coming to help you because I don't want to be a Jedi anymore because they suck. So him throwing the lightsaber, you know, being gross, drinking milk like that. He's trying to show her, like, look, I'm a bum now. Leave me alone. Go away. I'm not going to help you because I'm not that Luke Skywalker anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I kind of agree with that. He was definitely putting on a show, being like... Yeah, he was definitely putting on a show, for sure. But it didn't seem unnatural for Luke to decide to do that at that point.
Yeah.
I didn't like the lightsaber toss. I thought it was for comedic effect. It felt too comedic for me. Like, I can see, like, a drop to his side or, like... You know,
yeah, I'll agree. The throw was weird.
But to yeet it behind his back, I don't know. It seemed comical. Too comical for me.
Yeah, but then Rey had to go after it, and he left him alone for a while. So, I don't know. I mean, he wasn't throwing it into the chasm or the river. He was just throwing it behind him. Like, it landed on a ledge, and she was able to get it. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't...
He should have just spun around and, like, whipped it as hard as he could into the ocean.
Yeah.
The movie would have been over right there.
That would not have been any more in character for him than him.
Well,
Picked
it would
up
have been
Rey
more
with the
purposeful
Force.
than just kind of behind the back.
No, because he was showing, he was making a show of things, right? He wasn't trying to get rid of it forever.
Well, then why toss it behind his back?
Because she handed it to him like, you're gonna come back and be Luke Skywalker. It was him being like,
then
no,
don't take it. Then don't take it.
Just like walk away, leave her standing there with it extended.
Yeah, see?
He should have held out his hand, and when she dropped the lightsaber, like move his hand like in Jumanji with the dice.
Oh my God.
And like let it drop, like, oop, got ya.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just felt comedic to me. And it was ew. In my little feelsies.
Well, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then, okay, so we've established that everything he does in this montage is just to make Rey feel less and less like this is the legend Luke Skywalker.
Right.
But that milk scene,
Yeah, no, legit.
that could have been done in a different way.
As soon as
That just
we were
felt
about to go to
weird.
That scene, I was like, oh, great, it's this scene.
But everything else, the fishing looked so cool, and then you get to that part and you're like, this feels wrong. This feels like I shouldn't be watching this.
I felt like they were trying to add stuff to make it PG-13.
And that's what they went with.
Well, yeah, because that's how you get stuff to be PG-13. You got to add some swearing, you throw in some sexual stuff, you call it a day, you know? Like, I don't know. It just felt... I agree. It should not have been in there. But I'm saying I feel like they added that to make it more PG-13. I can't think of another reason why they thought, you know what this movie needs to show how Luke is a bum? Drinking milk and milking a beast from its udder. That's
Well,
why,
I think...
While it's sitting upright.
While it's sitting upright.
That was the
If
weird
it had
part.
been like a four-legged beast,
Right.
like a space cow, and he wouldn't have just like stuck the bottle on there and they didn't look so human,
Right.
it would have been way better.
No, I agree. If it was like a cow or a four-legged beast and it wasn't like sitting upright as if it was lounging, then that wouldn't have bothered me at all.
And you know what made it 10 times worse? I don't know why, but the way it just like turns its head and looks at Rey right afterwards, for some reason, just bugs me every time.
It's almost, and warning, this is going to gross some people out.
Go ahead. Oh, this is going to be good.
It was almost like this creature was sentient like humans. It felt like that, which gives this whole scene another connotation, if you catch my drift.
Yep, this is what we're titling the
It's
episode.
just, it's unsettling.
Yeah, it was very strange. The way it looked at Ray as if, like, why are you staring at him from my boobs? Like,
Exactly!
Yeah, no, it was weird, for sure. Very
That creature's going to be in the thumbnail now that we've talked about it.
No, don't do
Just specifically the lower half.
No, we're going to get demonetized. Well,
The picture, no, it's just going to be the picture of the milk bottle connecting with it.
oh, so weird. I would say we're going to get demonetized, but...
They can't demonetize us, it's a creature.
It's a creature. I don't know if that's how it works, but okay.
Or just the picture of it staring at Ray.
That would be funny. And people say we don't plan things
Okay, it's staring at Ray with the words, "Why you looking?"
Oh, that's good.
Okay, moving on to, I think, another great scene. Because I think it's next, like, enough chronologically to talk about it, is the dyad force scenes between Rey and Kylo Ren.
Oh
yeah.
So, okay, there's a lot of problems I have with this. Why would Snoke know that was the right way to go? To connect them. How the heck would Snoke do that without having, had Rey there playing mind tricks on her, like, physically when she was captured, I just feel like from far away, I sense Rey on a planet a lot of light years away, and I'm just going to connect these two's minds real quick.
It wasn't Snoke.
Yeah, it was. He said so.
If it was Snoke, it would have ended when he died.
It did end when he died. What do you mean?
No, it didn't. They were still connected right at the end when Rey's escaping on the Millennium Falcon. After they kill Snoke.
Well, Snoke said he did it, and we don't know any
All
future details whatsoever after this movie. So, all intents and purposes, we think it's Snoke.
Okay, so wait, we're
is,
pretending
it
we
doesn't-
haven't seen the last one in this review?
I kinda forgot about
we
that, but
don't
the
know
point
that
is-
at this point. That's like, we're supposed to think that Snoke's the one that did it,
Even if Snoke didn't do it right, it only makes sense when we thought they were cousins. Okay?
That's it.
Whoa.
They're not related, and therefore, what sort of stupid connection could they possibly have?
The Force.
I thought
We've
the connection
spent
thing was
6
cool.
other movies with Luke and Leia having connections through
Luke
the
and
Force.
Leia are related, and not just
It
related.
doesn't matter.
They're like twins. So, it does matter.
The Force can connect anyone. They don't have to be related.
And there's a stronger force between people who are connected by birth and by blood.
I agree with both of you. I liked the scene. Like, not the scene, the idea, like the plot.
Yeah,
idea.
it would have worked better if they were cousins.
I mean, yes, but like I liked it, except when they touched. That was breaking too many boundaries. And
and then he was like physically seen in the space too by Luke. Luke could see him. That was weird.
No, Luke couldn't see him.
Are you sure?
I think he came in and he said, "What was that?" And Rey thought he was pointing to Ben, and he looked and it was actually he was talking about the hole in the wall.
Yeah.
And then later on, he probably just felt what they were doing, and he blew the thing apart. There's nothing. I don't think it was ever stated that he could see him.
He came in, said, "Stop this." We saw it from afar, and you could see both of them touching hands. And so I think it was meant to be, he sees him there. And then he disappeared right after he blew up the thing.
Oh, if you have a problem with that, then you'll have a really big problem with the third movie's version of this.
I mean, it's just seemed, at least in this one, I can't remember a lot about the third movie here because...
They get into a lightsaber fight over it.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
And they, drag stuff across between them. I think at least we can acknowledge, again, going back to stuff we'll get onto even ground about, that visually it was he directed it in a neat way.
Oh, yeah.
Where they didn't, for most of the shots except for that last one, they didn't show them in the same environment, but you can feel that they were.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. I just wish they would have been able to explain it in a better way.
I don't know. Cool concept. Went too far with it. Can we all agree
I
on
would
that?
have accepted it pretty
Okay.
well if they were related.
Yeah,
Like the
okay.
whole Luke and Leia being able to sense each other and talk to each other, kind of.
Yeah. Cool. Next point. Leia's little force trick.
There was nothing wrong with that. I don't care what anyone says.
Are you kidding me?
Are we gonna call this a
She
little
drug
force?
herself
That
with
was
the Force. What
sarcastic.
is wrong with that?
Well, no, it was fine that she like drug herself over with the Force. It was the
What?
idea that she should have been dead at that point. Like
She was
should've.
protected by the Force.
Get out of here. She is not trained in the force,
No,
okay?
Yes, she
trained.
was.
Kinda.
Luke
A
Luke
little.
trained her.
Kinda a little.
You don't know
She's
how long.
trained.
He talks about all we hear is about their last night training.
My point was that she would have been dead.
That too.
Not able to use the Force at that point. Now, I don't have any problem with her use of the Force when she still is alive. It's just the idea that somehow she stayed alive that long.
No. Should have died. She's never been able to use the force like that. Whole thing's wrong. I gave it the stamp of failure.
That's okay.
She has no gravity out there, Eddie, so if she was still alive, that's not like a huge feat to do, to pull yourself with the Force when you don't have any gravity involved. Like, she's not floating, right? I mean, she's floating, but not of her own accord. Like, she's not using the Force to hover herself. She's just using it to pull herself.
I'm not arguing that it's not possible in general. My point is the fact that Leia shouldn't have had the ability to do that.
Because she would have been dead.
Okay, well, yes, but
I think that she was trained sufficiently to do something.
I disagree.
Okay, so wait. Here's what I'm hearing. I want to make sure I'm getting this right. So run this back to me, Eddie,
Sure.
once I say it. So your problem with the last film was that Rey shouldn't have been able to use the Force so much because she wasn't trained.
Right.
But your problem with this film is that Leia shouldn't have been able to use the Force even though she was trained.
Okay, we don't know how much she's trained. It mentions a training session, which is not enough to
For
convince
their
me that she
last
can
one.
do that. And previously, last time we saw her before this trilogy, which was Return of the Jedi, okay? She had no previous training in the Force, okay? We didn't even know if she was... Do we know if she was Force sensitive? I forget.
Yeah, in Return of the Jedi, Luke makes some reference to the Force in his family. He does say my sister has it. So
And-
we do know that she has potential at least.
It alludes to it in the previous movies by her being able to Force communicate with her brother.
And then, okay, Eddie, your point is that you don't know how many training sessions they had. That's exactly my point. Who's to say what they did between, because this is a long time between Return of the Jedi and this. You know how young they were in Return of the Jedi and how old they are in this movie?
True.
So who's to say in that time she didn't learn how to do a few simple Force tricks? Luke definitely trained her. We know he was training her. That's confirmed in the next movie. And I would guess in that span of time, she at least learned how to move stuff with the Force. I'm not saying she knew how to, Force heal or Jedi mind trick to an effective level like Obi-Wan. But all we're talking about now, I won't disagree that there is no reasonable explanation given for why she survived in space. I'm sure there might be a reason. It's not given in this film, which was a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the Force pulling, I don't know why everyone has such a problem with that.
Yeah, I have no problem with that because, being a leader of the rebels, I think that she would at least want to learn the basics to, as a safety techniques and just to help her out in certain situations. It comes in handy. And it sure did for her out there. I have no problem with that whatsoever, especially because, once again, she's in a zero gravity environment. She's not pulling her entire weight, it's not the same as if, it's a very lightweight Force capability compared to what other people feel like it is. But yeah, she probably shouldn't have survived up to that point in space.
I think the two reasons why the scene bothers me so much is one, and you're going to get tired of me bringing up this again, but we've had this concept built from I say the first trilogy, I mean like 1, 2, 3, Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith, that sort of thing, that people need to be trained in the Force when they're young because it's difficult for them to do so when they're older. It's not that it's impossible. I'm not saying that Leia can't use the Force at all, but like in order to use such feats with the Force, they have to be trained young, okay?
I don't know, man. She's got a lot of midichlorians.
Her midichlorians were so high. I'm surprised you didn't pull the ship towards her.
Yeah, for real. Those midichlorians.
Yeah.
She got midichlorians passed down from her father, so, you know.
And then the second reason, they didn't give a good reason. They just like mentioned a training session in the past. Like they didn't explain it very well. Those are my two reasons as to why. The other reason, I know I said two, but the third one is that Rey and just like the Force in this entire trilogy is just like everyone's just like buffed up by like 10 times with their Force usage. Like that bothers me too, and I feel like this is a symptom of that.
Rey hardly used the Force in this entire movie.
She raised a whole avalanche of rocks toward the end of the movie.
She lifted a bunch of rocks. Yeah. Luke lifted an entire X-wing in his second movie.
Barely. He didn't even do it. He almost did.
He still lifted it though.
Yeah, and then that
Not
took
fully,
him a while
but he still
to do.
lifted it.
It took him a while to do.
In his second movie though. And that was his first real Force training.
Yeah,
because Obi-Wan died before proper training.
I don't think she should have had that much ability without Luke training her a little more. However, it's not as bad as her doing the Jedi mind tricks without even looking at the dude.
Yeah, that's the previous movie.
Stuff.
Previous movie.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like this isn't as jumped up as the last movie with her Force powers.
Perhaps, but okay, I'll shut up about the Force. Leia and her Force.
Like movies. We've already at this point, because of the last movie, we've already established that she is like really very, very sensitive to the Force to the point.
Yeah, because of her bloodline.
Yeah. You'd think these things write themselves usually. Okay.
It's the midichlorians.
Okay, Holly, we can talk about Admiral Holdo. You can get it all out.
I mean, there wasn't that much. It's just the fact that they should have communicated with each other. They had just...
There was no reason she had to tell Poe a single thing. No reason.
Except that she knows that he is a trigger-happy guy that'll go out of the way and not listen to leadership in order to get things done. So, yeah, 100% she should have known to tell him what was going on.
Okay, nobody knew about hyperspace tracking at this point, right? That was something they found out and kept to themselves. Rey, Finn, or Poe, him, and the other girl's name.
I know, but he's already shown to...
Hold on. I'm not done with my point. Follow me here. So they don't know about hyperspace tracking. Only the three of them do. And they don't tell Holdo a thing. Which is a problem. But she has to guess there has to be a traitor on board giving them locations. Because hyperspace tracking, they're all shocked that it's happening. So obviously it's not common knowledge. So who's to say in her mind that Poe is not the spy? He doesn't want to just tell people her plans. They could be giving it away. Plus, most of the times he talks to her is out in the open, in public, with all these people around, all of whom could be a spy for the First Order. And right before she took command, Leia made a specific point to demote him, meaning she has double reason not to trust him.
No, that's a good point, for sure. But as much as I didn't like the fact that she didn't tell him anything, I also hate the fact that Poe and that whole team didn't tell her about that. You know,
I think that can be explained because she wasn't willing to listen. She'd proven like 3 times she wasn't willing to talk to him, so he was going to go do it himself.
Yep, I still think that logically speaking, both of them would have been better off speaking to each other. Insane. at
I
least
just think
mentioning it
there's
or testing the
no.
waters at least.
He tried to test the waters, and she logically said she's not just going to tell the first person who asks her plans. She doesn't know Poe as well as, like, say, Leia does. She has knowledge of Poe, but she doesn't know him well enough to trust him. And in her mind, there's somebody in their ranks giving information to the First Order, and she already doesn't trust anybody. Then you've got this person who came along and just destroyed half their fleet, half their bombers, or all their bombers, and Leia specifically demoted. That's all she knows, and she's not just going to go spreading around her plans because this is a last ditch effort. If their plans fail, they're done. So
Okay.
she's
Okay,
keeping this close to her chest.
the fact that she was next to take leadership means that she's been privy to everything that's been going on and probably knows Poe at least to a high extent. You know, like
Knows of him, but's never met him and doesn't have that reason to trust him. If Leia had done something like this, I'd have more of a problem with it because she has more reason to trust Poe because they have a relationship, obviously. But when they first introduce Holdo, Poe's like, "Oh wait, that's who that is." Like he's heard about her, but they've never met, so she has no reason to trust him
yeah, it was
beyond
just
his
it was also
reputation.
dumb on Poe's part because like Poe knows that they have no other. I mean, as far as he knows, they don't have any other plans, and they're dead in the water, and she can't refuse the plan unless she has something already up her sleeve, you know. So it just makes sense to go to her and at least tell her part of their idea, or maybe not the entire thing, but it was stupid of him not to even try because obviously there was no apparent plan, and so she either had something up her sleeve that she wasn't telling people, or she had nothing to lose and would be okay with the plan. Like the Rebels thing has been risky plans. That's how they get things done because they have no other way. So if he doesn't think that the person serving as admiral for the Rebels wouldn't listen to a risky plan, he's wrong. She just doesn't like the fact that he would put an entire fleet in danger, not listening to leadership, you know?
So there's another reason she shouldn't tell him the plans because he's a risk.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely is a risk. I do see the reasons why she didn't tell him anything.
Now, I won't disagree
okay?
with you necessarily fully that he should have told her what they discovered.
And that's what I'm talking
But
about right now. Yeah.
he did get kind of blown off the first time he tried to talk to her and got
so
dressed down.
He should have had what's her name or Finn go and talk to her instead.
Now that makes sense. But also, it's almost like Poe's arc in this movie is to learn how to communicate better and be a better leader rather than just a fly by the seat of your pants
Putting other
cocky
people in
pilot.
danger, yeah.
It's almost like that's his plot of this movie, is that's his arc.
I mean, it is. It is. It was just frustrating to see how, because like Eddie said, the whole thing is trying to figure out. Most of it happens on the ship, and they're trying to figure out how to get to this other, how to get away. And so, the fact that they had this one plan and everything was ruined because Poe didn't listen again, and so I mean, it's a good plot, I think, good enough, but it is a little bit frustrating to see how one conversation could have changed the entire plot of the movie.
Well, that leads us, I think, to the next part of this plot. How do we feel about the Finn and Rose subplot here with the whole mine or the war profiteers and the gambling casino and their whole little side mission with the code breaker?
Oh.
I don't mind it. I don't think there were many problems with it.
This relationship was the icing on the cake for me for this movie.
In a bad way?
Yes, in a bad way. Just the
You
icing
not
on
like
the cake
icing?
of the problems with this movie, particularly with Rose. I don't have a problem with Finn. I will say I have to give an apology to what's his name? Something Bodega.
Yeah. John Bottega?
Yes, John John, listen.
It's Boyega.
Boyega? Okay, I'm sorry. John, listen, buddy. Not that you're ever going to listen to this, but I'm going to say this. I have spoken slander on your character in the past on this movie. And rewatching it now, I was wrong. You know, you stay true to your character. I thought that they completely made you like a simp in this movie. You're not. I don't know why I thought that at the beginning. So I'm sorry. You're not a simp. You were being your character in this movie. Did they, bring you down a notch and make you lesser of a character in this movie? Yeah, but that's not your fault. That's the writing. So, anyways, apology issued.
Yeah, Rose on the other character.
Yeah, he was fine. Rose on the other hand, what was the point of her? Why? I don't know why she had to be in this movie. Shaner, enlighten me. Why did she have to be in this movie?
I want to step in.
Yeah, I got nothing really to add here, so I'm gonna let Holly take over because right. I got nothing to say on the defense of this part.
Yeah. So here's the thing. She made a good character to add. I believe she made a good character because she's kind of an underdog. She's kind of doesn't see much action because she's mostly doing repairs and that kind of stuff on ships. Her one connection to the action was her sister, and I think she makes a good character. What I don't like is how they went about the relationship between Finn and Rose, and starting out real poorly with this whole fangirling thing over, it's just kind of ridiculous and unrealistic there. And then
I didn't think that was. I thought that was pretty realistic.
No.
Like he blew up Starkiller Base and defected from the First Order and helped them, basically beat the First Order's super weapon.
Yeah, but he's not fangirling material. Like, he's not famous to the point of that. He's doing what all the other rebels are trying to do. You know what I mean? And it's so I just thought it was overplayed. Not that she wouldn't have been impressed by him. Just thought
overplayed, sure.
Yeah, overplayed, and which started the relationship weirdly, and then going from there to the ending where she kisses him and stuff and says she loves him. That's just so weird, and it could have been a really good friendship, type thing where I like their adventures together. I think that was cool, right? And I like her as a character. I just didn't like the way that they framed their relationship.
I will agree with you. And Eddie, I think I have an answer to your question. See if this helps. The only thing I can think is that if you would have done that subplot with Finn, because I think it had to be done. You had to get the code breaker because otherwise it would just be too easy to sneak onto a Star Destroyer. So can we at least agree? So that subplot, with or without her, needed to happen.
But why do they have to sneak on the Star Destroyer?
To do something they weren't able to do anyway.
Yeah, to get rid of their hyperspace tracking. So otherwise they weren't going to be able to escape.
I mean, they ditched the ship anyway, so it didn't matter anyways. Like, their whole plot was, like, go to planet, judge rich people that sell weapons, find a dude, come back, dude betrays them, somehow escape, and not actually accomplish anything.
I actually liked the fact that they didn't accomplish anything, because for once, a plan like this huge plan that everyone thinks is going to go through, doesn't work because they were all being stupid, Which I kind of liked that because it's a change. It's a unique thing about this plot idea that other movies definitely didn't have.
I don't know.
But Eddie, what I'm saying is that the plot needed to happen because they didn't know their plan was to abandon the cruiser. For reasons we've established, she has no reason to tell them her plans because she thinks someone's a spy. So they didn't know the plan, so in their mind, they need to disable this hyperspace tracking.
Okay, but why did
Hold on.
Okay, all right.
So the plot of them needing to sneak onto the Star Destroyer had to happen. And I think with just Finn, it would have been boring. I love Finn as a character, but I think having two people there made it better. And Rose was just the character. There's nothing specifically about her character I think that was important, but they needed to have another character in there, and that's just who they came up with.
It is odd to me, though, that Rose ended up piloting ships and doing a lot of things that, like, why wasn't she doing this before? And my idea was, oh, she wasn't doing it because she doesn't have those skills. She has other skills. But now she's in the action and doing all these things when she was supposed to be, like I said, the kind of the maintenance and repair person.
Well, I see that as like, look at a basic, like let's say a U.S. Army soldier. Every Army soldier probably has the same amount of like basic combat experience, but some of them are specialized to do, you know, vehicle repair, or I don't know much about the Army. So if I'm saying this wrong, we have a veteran listening, please enlighten us. But from what I understand, you go to like basic boot camp, you have the basic skills, and then you get specialized training. So she probably has a base amount of experience in terms of like piloting small ships, using a blaster, but then she has specialized training to do like repair work. What she says, she's an engineer.
Right, but then she's out of everybody who survived and is in the cave at the end. She's one of the ones chosen to be in one of those crafts.
Oh, I see. Okay, never mind. I misunderstood your question. Yeah, that is weird.
Seems like you really have to know what you're doing to pilot the old rickety, and then plus there were only like a few of them, so aren't there more specialized rebels than her in that, that were there in the cave?
Yeah, it's a good, that now that you said it that way, yeah, that's a good point. That didn't make much sense.
I'm like, why wasn't she with her sister then if she could do all that?
Well, how do we feel about, because I think there's no good point to make about Rose. She's just kind of there. But how do we feel about JD? Because the first time I saw this movie, I hated that character so much. But on subsequent rewatches, I don't have a problem with it.
Is this the code breaker?
Yeah, the code breaker.
Yeah. Yeah, the first time I watched it, I'm with you, Shaner. The first time I watched it, I really kind of hated the character. But this time, I don't know. I think he makes a unique character, but I still don't super like him.
Yeah, he's not the best character in this film. He's just kind of, I just don't dislike him as much as I did the first watch of this.
Yeah.
I don't like him. I didn't like him the first time. I don't like him this time. The only reason he's here is to prove. I mean, I know he's there to break them into the Star Destroyer or whatever. He's just there to make a moral point. And I'm not watching a Star Wars movie to get a moral point. Like.
Have you been watching the other Star Wars films?
Say,
like Star Wars is all about moral point.
Well,
Eddie,
is,
episode,
but like this
Eddie,
one is a lot more. Hold on. Yes, I know, and like we get that through like Rey and Luke, and like that we already have that.
Kylo.
But like this was more like a generic, I don't know, moral like lesson, I guess. I just felt like
I kind of liked his moral point
in
this film.
Like
I like the whole reveal of like they're selling weapons to the First Order, or to the Resistance as well.
Okay, but why? It didn't serve. That could not have been in the movie. It would not have changed the movie at all. Like it did not serve any purpose.
A lesson for the
what?
Characters. It was like,
ooh, the world is corrupt. Wow, I didn't know that one.
Well, I mean, at least for me this time, my thought on it as an audience watching it, my thought immediately was like, oh great, another thing for Finn to think of and want to get out of all of this. You know what I mean? Because Finn has been struggling. His character has been struggling this entire time with, this isn't his fight. It's too difficult to go up against the First Order. I'd rather get away and live my own life. And then he decided to help them, right? And now he's faced again with info that almost supports his initial view of, this war isn't my thing and I should probably leave, that kind of thing, So it's just like another point that makes him struggle there with what he believes as far as the war is concerned.
But we don't know that he learned anything because Rose was always talking over him, was like the center of the attention whenever those two were in a scene together. Like Rose kind of just, I don't say stole the show, but like had more appearances than him, I feel. So like if this was for his character development, why didn't we see his character develop? You know, like,
yeah, they should have done
if
more
they
with
if
it.
we just had, I don't know if this would have been the right way, but if they just had Finn and not had Rose, we could have seen him develop more. We could have seen him, you know, go through all this and whatnot. But like, I don't know, I don't know. I just didn't like the whole subplot. Rose ruined things. JD was just there to make a moral point, and I feel like it just didn't have to be there, and it didn't add anything to the movie. Just
So
didn't.
that's our thoughts on the subplex. I think we got to move this along, or this episode's going to be.
You
way too
are
long.
definitely correct, Shaner. Thank you for policing us.
So I think the last major point we have to talk about, because we already talked about the Snoke scene. So our last major point is your final battle on Crate, especially with Luke and Kylo.
Oh, hold on. You missed something. There's one other point
What
we
did I
got to bring
miss?
up. The burning of the Jedi Order books with Yoda's scene.
That was great. I loved that because I think Yoda probably already knew that Rey had taken the books and he was having fun. And it stays true to the previous movies, especially the fifth movie, because, you know, he's been seen in his old age to just mess around with Luke when Luke was younger. And now, coming back, he's like, ha, I missed you. And he's just messing around with him again. It just stays true to it. It's kind of like, kind of brings us back to their relationship, and I liked it.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. It's basically like Yoda's way of saying, hey, you're doing the right thing. Stop worrying about it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need this Jedi, temple.
I heavily disagree. I hate this scene. This scene
Really?
is one of my. Yeah, I hate this scene so much. Okay,
Wow.
now I agree with Holly's point where like he's teasing Luke. I like that. That was fun, and I think that was true to Yoda's character. What I don't like is that one, I think he was intentionally being mischievous with Luke and not telling him that Rey took the books. Which, by the way, he does say this line, and it's slightly paraphrased, but I believe I got the right. The library does not contain what the girl Rey already has, okay? It's kind of like a double entendre. Like, when you first see it, you think, oh, yeah, she already possesses the attributes to be a Jedi. But what he could have meant was like, hey, she actually has the books. Like, I'm not actually burning anything. But Luke doesn't know that. Like, I don't know.
Maybe it was Yoda's way of putting Luke at peace. Basically saying, like, you don't have to burn the Jedi Temple. I did it. And he doesn't need to know that Rey took the books. He doesn't have to worry about it. He's prepared to die. The whole film was him preparing to die. So as far as he's concerned, all the loose ends are wrapped up and he can die.
And once again, it stays true to Yoda's character. As we know, when Luke was training with Yoda failed to tell him a lot because Yoda just doesn't, unless he feels it's absolutely necessary, he just doesn't say things. He lets people figure things out for themselves.
Yoda is constantly on whatever the space version of crack is.
I wouldn't say that, but...
Go watch episode 5 again, where he beats R2 with a stick, and tell me he is not doing space crack.
He was living on a planet by himself. He's an old age. He doesn't care much anymore. He just kind of lives for whatever. Like...
Yeah, and he's living alone. He can do all the space crack he wants.
Okay. Okay, sure.
And he doesn't need to tell anybody anything that he doesn't want to tell them.
Okay, so the second reason why I think this scene is so bad is like the point of view to spiel is like, shoot, I should have written it down. So basically,
Yeah,
he's
Mr.
telling
Professional
Luke, that's
Podcaster.
Right, sorry, no, yeah, shut up. I have the, anyways. So what he's telling Luke is like, you're thinking too much ahead. You're being cynical. You gotta look at what's in front of you and deal with that in front. However, if we go back to episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, Luke wanted to run away and deal with the immediate threat of his friends being tortured and possibly dying. And Yoda was like, hey, but like, you might die, and for future's sake, you need to train. It just feels backwards what Yoda is saying in the scene, contrary to what's been he's preached in the past.
I think there's a difference between if you leave now, your friends are still going to get tortured and you're going to die because you're not prepared to fight Vader. and don't worry about the future of the Jedi. It's taken care of. That's what like there's a whole I think that's a whole different discussion. Like at this point, I think he's basically telling Luke like you are stressing out way too much about what's going to happen to the Jedi with Rey. You're ready to go. I'll, burn the Jedi texts. It's done. The Jedi are taken care of. Stop worrying about what's going to happen to them. Rey's got this. And, sit down with me and just kind of, almost embrace the Force at this point.
Sure.
Versus
And
if you leave Dagobah right now, you're helping no one and you're going to die because Vader will wipe the floor with you.
but like again, like Luke's concern was immediate, and he should have been worried more about the future. And now in this movie, he's worried about the future when he should have been.
Yeah, but there was no
I don't know. Like
there
I
was
don't
no
disagree.
purpose.
Like yeah, he needs to train Rey. It's just how Yoda said it. I think it's contrary to what's been said in the past.
I think
yeah,
Luke was at a different
situations.
stage in his life. Yeah, like it is contrary, but at this point it's a whole different situation, like Holly just said. He's not being contrary just to be contrary. He's being contrary because now this is a whole different ball game. This is like stop worrying about what's coming next because at this point it's off your shoulders. You've
Yeah.
done what you need to do. Ray's got this, you know, embrace the force. And basically
I
he's not
mean,
telling him to die, but he's telling him you can let go now. You're fine.
he's
The
giving
Jedi are
him
fine.
he's giving him the
That's not
exact same advice that he took himself when he decided to go to a distant planet and not worry about everything.
And do space
So-
crack.
And do space crack.
But that's not what he's saying. He's saying, hey, look, you're focusing too much on what you did, the past, what could happen. You need to focus on the fact that Rey needs you and you need to do something. That's what he's saying. And now I don't think that's the wrong way to look at it. Like, yeah, he should be involved in stuff.
I don't think that's
I just don't
what
like
he's
how he
saying.
said it. And I'm going to bring up another point and then I'll shut up about this. But the text could still be useful. Like they didn't have to be burned. Like history, well, yes, the Jedi Council, could have done things better. Just because they did things wrong doesn't mean you, A, can't learn from it, and B, there aren't good things still in the text, You just have to know history and kind of parse through it like that. Like the books still can be really helpful to Rey. And I think just burning it all is just like I don't know what they were trying to do.
But to be fair, the last time the Jedi used the books, they kind of failed. Epic failed,
Well, that's what I'm
Not
saying.
only
That's
that,
what I'm
but-
saying. Like, learn from their failures,
Yoda's not talking to Rey here. He's talking to Luke, who doesn't need the books at all anyway. You know?
What if the books were in there? Like, at that point, we think the books are there burning. So, like, we think, oh, I guess we don't need the books. I mean, later it's revealed that Rey
You
has
just
the
told
books,
us
but-
earlier that you said that he tells Luke the book, nothing in that temple is anything Rey doesn't already know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
either way, whether or not she has the book, she has the knowledge.
Right.
That's not true. That she doesn't know what's in those books. Like what I was saying when I said that was like she possesses like the trait she needs to be a Jedi. That's what I think that line was. But I think they wrote that line that way as like a double entendre of like she
yeah.
figuratively and literally like it means two different things.
Because Yoda can be a little bit of a riddler.
Yes, I was pointing it out. I wasn't so much critiquing that, but like at the time in the initial, the point was like, hey, she has what she needs trait wise. What I'm saying is the book still could have been useful because of the knowledge that was in there, and she could have learned from the past and learned about the past. But
I'm going to
digress.
say
Has them, and
that
so
he's
she
just giving Luke
Yeah.
comfort so that he can die in peace.
Yeah, pretty much. He
And he's done because he's been worrying about too long. Once Rey showed up, he's worrying about like the Jedi need to end. What's going to happen? We need to stop this. And he's basically telling Luke like, chill out, just accept your fate. It's all handled. We're done with this. Become a Force ghost like me and do space crack.
Sure, great, that's fine. I mean, I guess it's how he did it is I have the issue with, not so much the fact that he was trying to calm him down. Like, yeah, he should be telling him that. It's just how he did it. But okay, I digress. Bruce spent too much long
the
on
weird
this.
green milk is space crack.
Okay. Shannon, do you want to take us into the last point, and then we'll shut up and move on with our rankings and whatnot?
Yeah, okay. So we move on to this final scene between Kylo and Luke, which the first time I saw it, it was my least favorite part of the film. and I hated it because I wanted to see Luke show up, be an actual powerful Jedi, and wipe the floor with all of them. And I was mad that he was just a projection. Second and third time around, didn't mind it as much. It was more, it still made him a powerful Jedi. Like force projection that effective, not easy. I did have a problem with the way he died, just kind of like fading out like that. That was a bit weird for someone as big as Luke. But the more I watch it, the less I have a problem with it. And someone pointed out that his lines to Kylo, he's like, "See you around, kid," and all that was him both being Han Solo and him doing all this force stuff and being so wise was like Obi-Wan. So he was basically taking on like both of his examples, if you will, especially to someone who was Han Solo's son.
That's a cool point. I didn't think about that.
So yeah, I didn't like it the first time around. This time around, I thought the fight was really cool. A lot of good tension building and a lot of Luke, doing a lot of emotional damage, I guess, without having to land a single physical blow, and just kind of scaring people by the fact that they don't know he's a projection and he just survived like that whole barrage of blasts.
I partially agree with you. I didn't like it when I first saw it. I don't dislike it as much, but I still dislike it. Yeah, it was really cool. Like kind of what you were saying, how like projecting himself and like that whole effect. That was really cool tension and stuff. But like his death was kind of anticlimactic. It was like, oh, okay, I guess he's dead now. Like you could, if he was just gonna die, he could have just been there,
Right, exactly. Like they should have just, if he was gonna die in that moment, it would have been way cooler to see him there in person, being awesome.
Yeah. Like, and then like, okay, so he uses astral projection. So what? Like, it would have been cool if he was there. Would it have made it like what was the point of him doing the astral projection?
I think it was sort of to show that he's gonna do something, but he is ready to go and he wants to go peacefully, and so he's
maybe he couldn't have made it there in time.
That too.
Okay, but then explain that. Like, then tell us. Like, oh, I couldn't get there in time, so I had to do
you know how many movie reviewers are having a problem with show don't tell? This is showing, not telling. It's a big problem people have with.
They're not showing it. They just astral projection.
You're supposed to figure it out. I figured it out, and I'm not a professional movie reviewer.
All in all, I think earlier, like his desire to die there on that planet peacefully was that did end up happening. The way that he did the astral projection. So he was able to help, and yet he was also able to die peacefully on that planet.
Yeah, he accomplished his mission, which was to buy them time.
Exactly.
Sure, that is true.
And it was cool to see astral projection of that level, and so you could definitely see that it was like a powerful thing he was doing. It took a lot out of him and everything. And yeah, I mean, obviously the fans probably would have better appreciated him being there in person and like you said, wiping the floor with them. But I don't hate the way that this went down. I think it was...
Yeah, the more I watch it, the more I don't mind it.
He didn't even have to wipe the floor with them. He could have just pulled like an Obi-Wan and just stalled a bunch of times and destroyed a couple walkers and been a bit more impressive as he did it,
I mean, I guess, but his whole thing was the Jedi are gone, I'm not a Jedi anymore. And so when he was there, he wasn't being the Jedi he had been before. He was simply doing what he felt he needed to make sure that they had enough time to get out.
What do you mean? He was dressed up and had a similar haircut to what he used to have.
Then he didn't do, and then he just avoided and.
Right, because he was an astral projection. You couldn't actually do anything.
Exactly. The point is he decided he wasn't doing the whole rushing in Jedi savior thing, and so that's why he chose, maybe that's a reason why he chose not to go in person and do the whole Jedi savior thing.
I don't know. Cool scene, overall idea I didn't like.
I think one of the really cool things that came out of it was one of the cool scenes was them shooting at him, and then he's still there. And that wouldn't have been possible I'm sure they could have made it possible. But it was good explanation for why he didn't die then.
Okay. Are we good? Any
Yeah, I
other
think
grievances we got to voice before we move on?
No. So do we want to do? Are we just gonna do normal rankings, or are we gonna do favorite character, favorite scene, then rankings?
Oh, I was gonna mention Kylo Ren's shirtless.
Yeah, yeah, swole Adam Driver.
And the fact that Rey was like, "Can you like find a shirt or something?"
Yeah, the whole finding a shirt thing was like unnecessary comedy.
It was so unnecessary.
Yeah, it was unnecessary,
Yeah.
but good meme. I approve because it was a good meme.
It was a good meme.
All right, people. Favorite character, scene. What would you change? We're gonna start with favorite character. Holly, you can't say Han Solo now. So who's your favorite character?
Why can't I?
He wasn't in this movie.
He's on this movie.
Han Solo's dice.
Oh.
No. Yes, that's kind of a hard one. I didn't really think about it, honestly.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Shanner, who's your favorite character?
I'm gonna have to go for no super specific reason. I really like Poe in this movie.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't have a whole lot to go on. Like, I want to say Luke, but there was a few things I didn't like about Luke in this movie, so it might be a close tie. But I like Poe in this movie. He had some really cool scenes. He's a really good pilot in this movie. They really showcased it here, which was kind of showcased in the first one, but here it was good. He had good comedy, as much as I don't think it fits necessarily in this movie. I thought he still delivered his lines really well in terms of the comedy. Yeah, I liked Poe in this movie. Close runner-up, Luke, probably like right behind. Yeah, that's my favorite character. I don't have a whole lot to say on that because this is one of those movies where it's like I don't hate the characters, but it's just hard to pick a favorite.
I'm in the same boat. I really didn't like any of the characters much.
We know your favorite character was Rose. Okay, you can just say it.
Darn it! I just want to kiss her. I just.
Whoa! What? That just jumped up a whole nother notch.
We were talking favorite character. He's talking.
Wow. He had that one loaded in the chamber, ready to go. That. Fine, if we're talking about who we wanted to kiss, I wanted to kiss Luke Skywalker, okay? That's what we're talking about?
Well,
like when he had that green milk down his chin, I was like, oh man, what a man.
If we're going that route, I wanted to kiss Ghost Yoda. We all know.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it kind of changed my answer.
Yeah.
Ghost Yoda, yeah.
Ghost Yoda, for sure.
Okay. I really don't have a favorite character. Luke, I guess.
Oh no, Eddie wanted to kiss the milk monster.
Milk monster? It gives him that look that it gives Rey.
when your crush looks at you like.
I was trying to make a reference. You guys are tearing me apart. Oh my gosh.
We haven't gotten to tear you apart in like so long.
Yeah,
you've been pretty good the last few episodes. It's been a while since Space Plantation.
That was. I'm not okay. Moving on from that one.
Oh man.
Holly, who's your favorite character?
Eddie wishes he was Finn, so he would have gotten kissed before Rose died. Okay, my favorite character. I don't know. I'm with you guys where there wasn't like a clear favorite character, but I guess I liked. It would probably be between Luke or Rey, probably. But I liked Adam's character in this one better.
You mean Kylo?
Yeah, Kylo was. Yeah, I mean, I liked the thing between Kylo and Rey and that connection, even though it didn't really make sense. But I liked that a lot. So I don't know. Maybe. I mean, Rey's pretty much the connection between the two of them. So maybe Rey, but maybe Luke. I don't know.
All right, favorite scene / moment, Shaner, or you went first last time. Holly, favorite scene.
Definitely the Salt Canyon
You mean the planet with the white and red?
Yeah, those
Okay.
salt.
Well, they weren't in a canyon.
They were sitting in a canyon.
It was definitely a canyon.
Okay,
It
never
was,
mind.
it
They
was
were in
more
a
like a
canyon.
trench.
Okay,
No,
sure.
it's a canyon. It's like a clay.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I liked that just from the beauty of it, and yeah, and then close runner up, if not maybe tied, would be Kylo and Rey's scene when they're fighting together, and when she thinks he's turned, and then he all of a sudden like shows that he doesn't quite have the right idea still.
Sure. So my favorite scene was like the red and white salt planet. Oh, it looks so good. Mwah, 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 mwah. It looks beautiful.
Kiss it like he kisses.
Gory. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it looked really great. It was gorgeous. Honestly,
you can't help it. You were just talking about kissing, and now you're referring to the scene with a bunch of kissing noises.
okay, I'm done. Shannon, just go. Just go.
The cinematography was great. Keep going.
Nope, I'm done. I'm not saying
Okay.
anything else to go.
Sorry, I was laughing because I was looking for another picture to send you, but I'll send you the meme I found after this. My favorite scene, two tied for first place because I can't pick between them. The hyperspace jump into the Star Destroyer. I heard a lot of people saying it doesn't make sense in universe. I don't get that. I thought it made perfect sense. And it just looked really cool.
It did.
The silence of it with the noise afterwards. But tied with that, because I also really like the scene, is Rey's first training session with Luke, where he does his little monologue about the Force. And it ends with like, that Force doesn't belong to the Jedi. So it was just a really good scene. The way it, had the showcasing of the pictures, life, death, light, dark, and the way it cut back between all the images on the island and the music building up.
Sure.
I thought that was just a really good scene.
Yeah, that was pretty good. And then it ending with him being like, "You went straight to the dark," and him being scared. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that whole scene is tied with but I've just, even the first time when I didn't like this movie, like when I first saw it, didn't like this movie at all. But the one thing I did like was the hyperspace through the Star Destroyer scene.
That's a good scene.
I like the scene too. I don't know why it had to hit all of them. Like all
Because
of them
it shattered.
Was a little problem.
Because it hit the Star Destroyer and shattered its pieces going at hyperspeed. And that's like a lot of pieces. It's like a shotgun blast.
No. I get why it hit a lot of them. Just like it seemed like it hit all of them, and that seemed a little improbable. Like there should have been at least a couple ships alive, But that's being a bit nitpicky. I won't. That's fine. All right, scene.
Eddie, what would you change besides the whole movie? Because we know how much you feel about the whole movie.
Yeah, the whole movie. Just redo the whole thing. I guess if I had to boil it down into one point, I wish, and we had this problem in The Force Awakens, but like how the Force is portrayed, like the whole scene with Leia being in her Force trick, Yoda's comments about just like Luke and the Jedi and all that, just Rey being able to lift rocks and without much training, even though I don't like how the Force is portrayed. I think that's like it's a universal factor throughout all these movies, but like, that's what troubled me about a lot of the big moments in this movie. Shannon?
Thing I would change. Not to keep hammering home on the point, but I definitely would have. I'm not going to say taken away all the comedy because I think some of it worked to where it was, but not intercutting the comedy into serious scenes like Rey and Luke or some of the stuff with Poe and Hux. Just like keep serious scenes serious and put the comedy in scenes that are supposed to be funny. Because I'm not saying you can't have funny in Star Wars, but like use it at the appropriate times. If I had to think of one specific moment to change, the Phasma Poe battle could have ended differently.
Yeah.
There's an alternate version of it on YouTube which is really good. Like a scene they shot and it got changed around and deleted. So if you get the chance to look at that, it's got a really good scene where like her helmet gets cracked and they have a bit of a more intense fight, and it ends like a different way with her dying or something.
Okay.
Like the way she dies is a bit different. So I would have changed the way that ends back to the original version they had because it's really good if you watch the original version.
Okay. Holly?
I would have. I don't know. I think I would have given more. Like you were talking about Finn. Finn definitely should have had more character development, some more. I feel like, although I kind of liked the character of Rose, you're right in the fact that she took away from the established characters in the new Star Wars, what it is now, and the new characters there. And I think the way that you come out of it with beloved characters is when you focus a little more on their journeys, and you don't have it as much when you have a large array and you keep adding more characters into the mix. Then those characters don't get the attention they probably should. More for Finn, for sure, because I really liked Finn in the last one. Finn was one of my favorite characters, the last one. I would have liked to see more on his side of things. I think that's like the biggest thing, honestly. I mean, some better explanations for things, perhaps, would be nice.
All right.
Oh, I figured out one more thing to change.
Okay. Shoot.
Get rid of the porgs. They serve no purpose.
Sorry,
They're just there to sell merchandise. The porgs.
Which are?
The little bird creatures.
Yeah.
They're just there to sell. Which, I don't have a problem with like plush porgs, but at least with the Ewoks, which are cute fuzzy creatures, they served a purpose.
Right. Yeah.
I liked the porgs.
I don't know if I'd necessarily remove them. I just wanted to mention this time I watched it and realized they served like no purpose.
Yeah, they were like the minions, but didn't serve any purpose. They were just there to be cute and sell merch.
They were there to be cute around Chewie.
Why? There's no point.
I wanted that one to turn on the lightsaber in that other one's face.
I would have liked Chewie to have more screen time as well.
Yeah.
Connect more with people. But yeah, no, that was his thing in this movie, was kind of connecting with these little creatures. So I didn't mind the little creatures. Going back to what I was saying though, it's definitely not just Finn, it's also Chewie. I would have loved to see Chewie more involved.
All right, rankings, people. I think.
Oh crap.
Okay. I think we actually all agree on this one for once.
Probably.
I don't think we have to go through our rankings. I think I can just start off with it's at the bottom for me. I don't hate this movie. I like it. Just compared to everything else, it's at the bottom.
Okay, good. Yes, mine is also at the bottom. Like, I think.
Yeah, mine is also at the bottom.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I don't know if it's gonna be at the bottom at the end because I think what's the next movie?
Spoiler alert: Rise of Skywalker will not be at the bottom of my list.
Okay, I blocked a lot of that movie out of my mind, so I don't really remember it. But I don't see it going above Phantom Menace, but we'll see.
Oh, it's gonna go way above Phantom Menace for me.
Okay, we won't go through the rankings. If you want to know our rankings, go back to our previous episode, which was on The Force Awakens, which was not as contentious as this one.
Oh, the next one's going to be even worse, I think.
Oh, the next... I've blocked a lot of it out of my mind. Like, I blocked a lot of this one out of my mind. I love the next one
so much.
Yeah. I think this is the first Star Wars movie that me and Holly watched where I was like... I don't want to watch this. Like, do we have to watch this?
I think this is the first one where you weren't like, wow, Star Wars, and you were more like, oh, wait, this movie's not good.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was halfway through the movie. It's like, it's only halfway done. Ugh.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way. Instead of being excited to watch Star Wars, I was like, oh, this one. Not that exciting. Not eager for it. But yeah, no, it wasn't as bad as the first time I watched it.
All right, well, that just about wraps up the show. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I know this is a longer episode, but, I mean, it had to be. Let's face it, it had to be a longer episode because there's a lot going on in this movie. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, everyone, for the support on our last episode, which was the Poker Guesser one. That, I thought that was going to get like 20 views and tank. It did not tank. It's doing really well, so I'm glad you'll like it. Thanks for listening. We'll definitely have more of those out. Yeah, I don't know. Go follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. Keep up with stuff. Shayner, anything you got to say?
Yeah, don't do space crack.
Don't do space.
Or don't do Earth crack for that matter either, I guess. Just avoid crack.
Moral
That's a PSA.
Story of Last Jedi. Don't do crack of any kind. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.